Hello YouTube, this is WOOMOO and it's very nice to meet you. Now, today's subject is a bit of a headbender. So I suggest you put your helmet on. It's not one for the faint-hearted. We're going to be exploring reality through the lens of polarity and what free will actually is, okay? So, what the fuck is reality, okay? The great philosophical question. Who are we? What is this? What's going on? Why are we here, you know? So reality is all subjective. It is all that is. It is God, source, existence itself, allowing itself to experience itself through the lens of polarity, you know, through a mirror. What's known as, say, the law of correspondence in Hermeticism. It is being able to observe itself, learn more about itself, perceive itself in an infinite number of fractals of itself, which we all are, right? Now, in doing so, it creates what was referenced as the Maya, the great illusion. This illusion of the other, the separate, you know, they, them, you know, when in actuality, it is just all of us, right? So understand it like this. Light, right? Light cannot actually exist without shadow. You need shadow to define the light. Male doesn't exist without female. In, out, right? Up, down. Good versus evil. Okay, I'll get onto this a little bit later. One doesn't exist without the other. They are the same thing on opposite ends of the spectrum. You see? In the construct of our actual reality, this is from a very philosophical kind of standpoint, right? You have the Father, the light, the pure consciousness that pervades all. Then you have the Mother, you know, so you could associate the Father with the Sun, the Mother with the Moon, right? The Mother is the matrix. That is Mother. Matter. Matrix is all one. It is information. So matter is information in which consciousness can express itself through. You can't have one without the other, you see? And it's very interesting to see it like that, you know? In these discussions of, you know, they're evil, this, that, and the other, and this separation of them and us, they don't understand that your subjective reality, and this is what I ultimately wanted to get to. So, reality is subjective. You are all that is experiencing itself. Once you awaken to that idea, you come to realize, and it takes a lot of valuable introspection and accountability for one's own actions, responsibility in their own thought processes. But understand, your internal state, your subjective reality is a direct reflection. It is the mirror of your internal state, okay? Now, I'd like to introduce this idea of, you know, the Holy Trinity is often spoken about. The number 3 is very symbolic across all cultures throughout antiquity, right? Now, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, however you want to portray it, in this way is mind, body, and soul, right? Or mind, soul, body, rather. And this on a very macro lens, taking not into account the multiverse of experiences available to all that is. This provides a somewhat abstract but tangible kind of concept of how things work in our material existence, right? A lot of people like to think, and I'll touch on this after with the free will portion, but a lot of people like to think we are cause and effect, right? That we exist on a causal plane, which we absolutely do not. How this Holy Spirit kind of, the Holy Trinity sort of thing works is you have all that is, source, all information that ever has, ever will exist, right, is in this etheric just space. In order to experience itself, it needs to create a polarity. It needs an other to see itself, okay? And the conduit between an idea wanting to experience itself to the actual experience itself is what we would conceive as our soul. It is a manifestation of energy which is able to transmute, you know, through the mind, body, and spirit. That is our gateway. That is our intuition that is speaking to us. So, understanding we live in a quantum probabilistic universe. I think science says not to discount Einstein relativity and its deterministic effects. We understand that mind comes before matter. And that's the most important thing to understand about what quantum mechanics is that it is mind that creates matter. An idea or an object can't exist without the idea beforehand, right? So in this mind, soul, body kind of construct, you have the conceive, where the idea is formed. You have the receive, the receiver, the conduit of your soul, your spirit, which is connected to all that is, because you are a fraction, a fractal, an expression of all that is. You are a God in your own right. To the body, with our somewhat rudimentary senses, in which we're able to perceive and then experience. And then you have this perpetual, the Ouroboros, the feedback loop of existence itself. Okay? Now, part 2, free will. What is free will? Well, we do have it. Not many people exercise it. So, free will is living by your own determination and through your own actions, understanding, being mindful and honest with yourself in your true intent and following your truest expression of self. So, in simpler terms, if you read the news, digest however many podcasts, this, that, and the other, people telling you what to think, do this, do that, how you should feel about something, not how you feel about something, how you should feel about something. This is external noise, this is influence, which you form identity around in those beliefs, which you've then adopted, okay? So this is the construct of the ego, you see, which is very difficult to dismantle, because when people begin to identify with what they believe, they don't allow themselves to let that belief go, even if it isn't working for them anymore. Okay? So, free will is living through your true, freest, most honest expression of your higher self, your intuitive nature, being able to respond, not react. It is an observant, fourth dimensional place of being, in essence, right? Now, I'd like to draw this back to the concept of the Adam and Eve story, which many will be familiar with, and I think is apt in following up the prior kind of discussion on what Jesus actually is or what he represents in the Bible, okay? So, Adam and Eve, right? This is polarity. This is, there's a Hellenistic Greek concept of the bicameral mind, okay? So this is the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain acting, almost autonomously in their own right. Two totally separate entities within you, a stranger in your own head, so to speak, right? So you have the left being the masculine, that is the intellect, the ego, the logic, the memory, and you have the right, which is the feminine, the intuitive, the creative, the spiritual. The idea is bringing them in sync, okay? It is, Carl Jung describes it as synchronicity. You want to live in synchronous with the universe. It speaks to you, okay? The serpent, so often perceived in fear-peddling, stupid nonsense, this idea of the devil or like some negative entity, right? Evil doesn't actually exist. That is a construct of man, right? It is the same thing on opposite ends of the spectrum. The only way you can measure good and evil is through intent. So what is the intent of that guy telling you to be scared of that? You know what I mean? That's evil. Anyway. So the serpent is representative of what's known as the Kundalini energy, or the serpent wisdom, right? Which during a transcendental meditative state, or an enlightenment, or samadhi as it's known in the Hindu scriptures, satori in the Zen Buddhism, it's a physiological, like it's your cerebral spinal fluid rushing up your spine into your brain, releasing endogenous DMT into this outer body, ethereal, incredible, blissful, loving state. And that is only when you achieve your free will. you see, so that the apple, that the fruit, that is the free will. So the Adam and Eve story is showing the dangers of, understand that all other life, at least on Earth, doesn't have the free will that we do. They act purely on instinct. Their reptilian brain, their amygdala, is their pure response to their surroundings, at least in our understanding. Whereas we at least have the sovereign capability of recognizing ourselves as our true creator, our divine right, the wisdom, the tree of life, which is our body, can go into our own free will. Unfortunately, that sort of wisdom has been kept from us, and there's a small portion of society actually living with true free will in the schema in which I'd like that to mean, So, a little bit of food for thought, that one, hey? Anyway, woo moo woo way, transmission out. Yeah boy.